Welcome back, football fans. This is Sebastian Fearon here, Doctor of Physical Therapy, working with the guys over at the Sports Gambling Podcast. We're here for the NFL Week 4 edition of the Thursday Night Football matchup, where we're breaking down the injuries and then looking ahead at some fantasy football injuries later in the week. So let's get it started with the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Interesting matchup this week. Two teams that had pretty low expectations coming into the year. One of those teams in the Jaguars at 0-3, living up to those low expectations. And we have a bit of a surprise with the Cincinnati Bengals, 2-1 right now, coming off a big win against the Steelers. We also have a rematch of the College Football National Championship 2 years ago with the quarterback position, as in Joe Burrow against Trevor Lawrence. So let's go ahead and get started with the injury reports. We have Cincinnati up first. Theirs is a bit longer. They're dealing with some secondary issues this week. Free safety and leader of that secondary, Jessie Bates, is going to be out with the neck injury. He led the team. He was the second leading tackler last year. He had 3 interceptions and a forced fumble and is definitely the leader of the secondary back here. So they're going to miss him. Also, Ricardo Allen, another safety for them, already on IR. So they're already down 2 safeties this week. And then cornerback Chidobe Awuziwe. Definitely probably said that wrong, so if Mr. Chidobe, if you're ever listening, go ahead and correct me there. But he's starting cornerback for the Cincinnati Bengals out most likely. He's doubtful with the groin injury, didn't practice all week, so he's probably expected to not play at this point. He was a starter for a couple years for the Cowboys, so that's a bit of a loss for the Bengals there, but they are getting cornerback Trey Waynes back this week. They acquired him in the offseason from the Vikings. He has some starting experience, so at least getting an addition of Trey Waynes is going to help out that secondary, because Jacksonville does have some capable wide receivers, as in DJ Chark, Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault, all very capable wide receivers. It's been more about Trevor Lawrence being able to get them the ball or not. So it's going to be interesting to see with some key members out with the Bengals secondary if Trevor Lawrence can take advantage of that. Then we have on the starting line, guard Xavier Su'a-Fule. He is doubtful with the knee injury. This injury isn't too big of a deal. He did miss last week, and they have rookie guard Jackson Carman. He stepped in last week and actually is getting a lot of praise. He did pretty well. And quite frankly, they're going up against a D-line that's not too scary. I mean, the Jags only have 4 sacks this year. They're a pretty bad unit, so I think that, the rookie's going to be able to step in, and it's not going to be too big of an issue there. A bit of a bigger issue on offense is going to be T. Higgins, wide receiver 1 for them, out with the shoulder injury. This is his second week out. His injury is a bit of a mystery. There's not been much disclosed as far as severity or nature of the injury. They're just calling it a shoulder injury. There was nothing really from week 2 is when he got the injury. There was nothing really on film that, stuck out. So this is a bit of a mystery, but he practiced some last week in a limited fashion. He was doubtful for week 3. But this week he's not practiced at all and was ruled out, kind of quickly. So a little bit concerning there as far as going forward, what's going on here. But the good sign is they did not put him on the IR, which would have him out at least 3 weeks. So hopefully he'll be back in the next couple of weeks or so. But definitely something to monitor. The Bengals do have Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd, who are more than capable to carve up this very suspect Jaguars defense, giving up over 300 yards and over 30 points a game. So I think, definitely if you have T. Higgins in your fantasy team, it's tough. But I think definitely if you're looking to play some wide receivers in a DFS aspect, look at Chase and Boyd against this bad Jaguars defense. Going over to the other team, Jacksonville, we have 2 guys out, starting with kicker Josh Lambo. Honestly, I'm not too sure if this is a bad thing for them. He's quietly been having a really bad year. He's 0 for 3 on field goal attempts this year and has already missed 2 out of 7 extra points. So he's really not having a good year so far. They're calling it personal issues. I don't know if it's a team-issued personal issue, like, let's just give another guy a shot. Looks like they're probably going to elevate practice squad kicker Matt Wright, who appeared in 3 games for the Steelers last year and was 4 for 4 on his field goals and 7 for 7 on extra points. So a little bit interesting twist there. And then the only other player out for the Jaguars this week is starting defensive lineman Roy Robertson Harris. This is his second game missed. He missed week 3 also. It looks like defensive end Josh Gaddis is going to step in for him. Again, with this Jaguars defensive line not really producing much pressure, and they're giving up over 400 yards a game, I don't know how big of a drop-off this is really going to be for the Jaguars there. Looking ahead into the week at some more fantasy football relevant injuries. Let's go ahead and start in Tennessee with both their wide receivers, Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, coming down with hamstring injuries last game. Both of them left the game at some point. Brown in the first quarter, Julio Jones later in the second half. and did not return, which is, not great for their likelihood to play this week. Hamstrings are one of those injuries where, it's responsible for your lower body power. So that's your speed, your jump ball ability. It's very, very important, especially for these skill guys that rely on that, catch deep ball ability. And they come with a high re-injury risk. So they usually take at least a couple weeks to heal fully. And it's not really something you want to mess around with, because typically if you do re-injure your hamstring, it's more severe than the initial injury. And it's going to have you out for a long period of time. That being said, they do play the Jets this week, so they get a little bit of a break. I would be surprised if they risk playing either of these wide receivers, especially a lot of snaps. I think what this means is we're going to see a lot of Derrick Henry, who's always, a great back. We know that. But what we didn't see is that he's the team's second leading receiver right now. A bit surprising, but I think he's going to get some work on the ground and through the air. Also look up for guys like Chester Rodgers and Josh Reynolds to get some pass catching, but I think Derrick Henry's the one who's really going to get a boost from A.J. Brown and Julio Jones being out this week. Moving forward in Carolina, we have Christian McCaffrey. Last Thursday night, we all saw him kind of come down with a hamstring injury as well. It's been the week of hamstring injuries. So the good news here is, despite him getting ruled out pretty quickly in that game, he is not on the IR at this point. Their team's not going to put him on the IR, so that's good, because it basically means they expect him to be back in a couple weeks without any setbacks. That being said, it is a hamstring injury. Like I said, that high re-injury risk. It's going to take at least a couple weeks to get fully healed. So that means it's Chuba Hubbard time until then. I think if he's available, it's probably a little late at this point, but if you can want to play him in DFS, or if you can grab him in any of your leagues, he's a must-add, because this is an offense that relies so much on the running back. Christian McCaffrey already leading them in rushing, of course, but also, again, their second leading wide receiver. So I think Chuba Hubbard's going to get a lot of work this week. Moving on to some better news with Rashod Bateman, rookie wide receiver out of Minnesota for the Baltimore Ravens. He has been activated off the IR. He had a groin injury and had surgery on his core muscular abdominal muscle in this offseason, but he's was activated today and has begun practicing, which is a great sign for him. He's someone who, as a rookie, was getting a lot of buzz at a training camp that they really like this kid. Now, I still think that it's going to take a little bit of time for him to come back from the injury and to get some chemistry with Lamar, because Lamar had that second COVID stint. He wasn't there all of training camp. So I think this week might not be the week to play him if he is available. But I think, next week and moving forward, I think Rashod Bateman is someone who's definitely look into picking up if you haven't already. And then let's finish with Rob Gronkowski. So we all know the Tampa Bay Bucks are taking on the New England Patriots this week. Great matchup. Gronk got injured last game. He came out briefly with a rib injury. They basically went to go get him x-rays, and they came back negative, which is a great sign. So right now he has bruised ribs, a pretty common injury. It can be painful. It does limit your catch radius some, but they're expecting him to play. I'm fully expecting Gronk to play, and I'm buying into the narrative that him and Brady are going to have a big week in going back to New England. Gronk's been doing great this year. He's third in the team in receiving, second in receptions. He's got 4 touchdowns already, 21 targets. Brady's been looking for him a lot this year, and I think that's going to continue. All right, guys, that's it for this week. So, as always, I put up an article with an NFL fantasy football in-depth injury report, and then I'm doing also a college football injury report for some of the bigger injuries there over at sportsgamblingpodcast.com. And then I'm bringing out these weekly videos to the YouTube channel. And as always, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at SGPNFootballDoc for the latest news and analysis. Y'all enjoy your week this week.